It was one dark but yet so beautiful night. The clouds slightly covered the moon, but did not prevent it from shining clearly and lighting up the night sky, along with the many shining stars. The silence of the night is interrupted by the scream of a white-haired girl who is held by the hand of the guy. He is getting closer and closer to her lips to kiss her, but the girl screams to let her go. The girl hit the young guy and repeated to him that he should not touch her if she does not want it now. The girl's luxurious snow-white hair, her ocean blue eyes and long aristocratic dress catch the eye. The guy touched his palm to the small scar that the girl must have left him with her fingernails. He wiped the wound and said that she said everything right, she told him, but that doesn't mean he's going to listen to her. The guy made an arrogant face and looked at the girl with a wicked sneer. His ruby-colored eyes looked straight at her. The girl incomprehensibly asked him at what point he remembered everything, to which the guy smiled and asked her to guess it, after which the girl thought to herself that the guy is a bastard and let him be damned. The girl pulled away from the guy and looked at him unhappily and asked if he had been lying to her all this time. The guy only asked if it was a lie, reached out his hand and grabbed the girl's leg with a sharp movement. He said that he only wanted to play along with her, as the girl liked it, but the girl only shouted louder to him not to touch her. The guy interrogated, saying that she was his wife, and why then he was not allowed to touch her. The girl in her mind confirmed this fact that this nasty thing was her husband. The guy continued to hold the girl by one leg, lifting her higher and smiling smugly, looking her straight in the eyes. It all started a month ago. In the Dalari Empire, there is an aristocrat who has been dubbed the First Lady of the Empire. She's got good looks, a fine tongue, noble ancestry. The girl incomprehensibly shouted that for the dissolution of the engagement, "Is not this no one will refuse?" asks the lady, to which she is answered by saying no, because they want to weaken it a little bit. Landi was told that he had returned with military achievements, so if he went to His Majesty and asked to annul the engagement, they could not do anything. But the fact that he came and said he wanted to break the engagement is a sign of respect for the Duchy of Kassendi. That he wants the engagement annulled is a sign of respect for the Duchy of Kassendi, and since he's leaving, they need to consider their next move. But the lad has promised that the compensation for the annulment will satisfy the nobles, so we can even announce that the offer of annulment has come from their side. The girl interrogated in a confident voice whether she should be grateful to him. He had proposed marriage and would dissolve it himself. The blonde guy crossed his arms on his chest and mockingly told Landi that it was useless. Then he couldn't stand it and started laughing openly, saying that the First Lady of the Empire is not even able to keep a man by her side. He would have hit the wall until he died in her place. But then a blonde girl with blue eyes came up to the guy and touched his hand, as if saying with this gesture for the guy to behave more decently. Landi heard this and threateningly told the guy to shut up if he didn't want to get slapped, her eyes full of determination and some anger at his words. After that, the guy told the girl standing next to him, calling her mommy, that Lady Landi was swearing at him, and she turned her attention to the girl and told her that no matter what happened, she should not take out her anger on her brother and let her apologize to him immediately. Landi says that her brother is at it again, and then she slaps him hard and hard so that her hand left a mark on his cheek, saying that it is obvious that her brother is an arrogant man who wants to make fun of his sister. So she is told that her brother loves her for nothing, and for that matter, it is really called anger management. The girl looked at her brother, who grabbed his cheek with his palm, and repeated that his parents had spoiled him, and therefore she would have to punish him so that he would know his place. She thought to herself that even if her brother knew that no one would save him from her, he still continued to provoke her. Why was that so? The girl firmly and resolutely stated that she cannot just take and decide to marry, because now Lonnie will laugh at her, and if people find out, it will be a total disgrace. She cannot put up with it, and cannot let her social status, which she has so long nurtured, destroyed. The girl thought about the option of killing the groom, because the dead groom sounds not so terrible as the termination of the engagement, about which everyone will know. But then the maid comes to her and says that Miss cannot do so. Lady Landi then asks what to do. She doesn't want to be abandoned because it's too awkward, and the maid replies, why doesn't the girl just go and find out the reason for the termination? If she can talk it over, why not? Londi, together with the maid, came to the building, a huge, beautiful building, everything as it should be. But the girl immediately noticed that this is not the Duke's mansion, to which the maid told her correctly, because this is the residence of the Marquis, which he was appointed by His Majesty. Londi resents the fact that he has already been made a Marquis, but the maid whispers to her to look around. A guard stops them and asks where they are going and if they have an appointment. But the girl ignores his gesture and walks forward so that they are now standing with their backs to each other. She informs him that she is the Duchess of Kassendi, and also the fiancée of his master, and she has business with him. The boy smiles and says that he heard from the guards that Duchess Kassendi has business with him, and the girl realized that in the 10 years since they had seen each other, the boy had become even more of a show-off. Londi smiled at his display and informed him that it was nothing serious. She just wanted to know the Marquise's reasons for breaking off the engagement. The guy shows some mystery and thoughtfulness by saying that he may have fallen in love with someone else. And the girl is very tense because she doesn't understand what he means by may have fallen in love with someone else. The guy continued talking, saying that the Duchess would have to pretend that he loved someone else, and Londi smiled wickedly, saying that he really deserved to die. There was a brief awkward pause, after which the lad asked the Duchess to be careful on the way home. But the girl is very angry with his behavior, as the guy as if trying to play with her as a monkey. The girl prepared a bottle, hiding it behind his back, and told him that she does not hold a grudge, thinking to herself that if there are offenses, it is better she will deal with him on the spot. A guard bursts into the room. Hearing all this noise, he asks what happened to the gentleman, but sees a picture of his master lying over the Duchess. She asks to let him go, and the guy lightly bites her neck. It all looks so sweet and romantic that even made the guard embarrassed and leave the room, so as not to disturb them, but that's not what he thought. As soon as the guard came out, the girl lifted the guy out from under her, calling him very heavy. She said that he was too weak for a hero of the Empire, and if anyone found out about it, she would be sent to the temple to be tried for harming a hero of the Empire. Londi touches the guy's face, asking him to wake up, but he doesn't react at all, and then she realizes that her idea to talk about the engagement can't come to fruition now. Then she grabbed her head and waved it around, reminding herself that she needed to check with someone about his condition first, because if something terrible happened to him, she was in big trouble. The girl politely and embarrassedly enters the guard. He asks if she has some errand for him, and she, playing the role of a sweet and innocent lady, embarrassedly asks the guy to call her maid. The maid checks the guy's condition, and then tells Londi not to worry, as the Marquis's condition is normal. He is completely fine, and will wake up soon, to which the lady replies that all is well then. The maid asks the girl not to be so impulsive, because she even frightened her, because if something happened, they would pay with their lives, to which the girl replies that she knows and understands it perfectly well, and adds that it will not happen again. Londi asks the maid what they should do. Atta replies that they should wait for him to wake up first, and then fall on their knees and beg for mercy, hoping that he will let the lady go. But as strange as Londi agrees here, she realizes that this is really the only way out right now. Although it doesn't make her feel good to realize such a thing. Some time passed and the guy woke up. He began to hold his head and began to look around, trying to regain consciousness, as suddenly, quite for him, suddenly sees a girl across from him, who sits on his knees and asks him to forgive her. But the guy does not recognize her. The guy blushed and turned away from the girl. He asked her not to look at him like that because he already had a fiancée, which caused a lot of confusion on Londi's part. She wondered if the guy could hear what he was saying. The maid is a little frightened and says that the Marquis has probably lost his memory. She adds that it is a disaster. The Marquis wanted to break off the engagement and now he has decided to have a memory. She is worried that when his memory comes back, he may not let the Duchess go at all. The girl sighed and said that she would never let the stigma of being a divorcee enter her life. And then she smiled a sly grin and said that since he had amnesia, how could he not take advantage of such a great opportunity? After which, Londi looked directly at the Marquis and made a speech about how he could forget her. She is his future daughter-in-law after all. The girl plays the role of a slightly offended daughter-in-law, trying not to show her true motives. The guy incredulously asked if she was his favorite daughter-in-law, to which the girl embarrassedly and playfully took her head aside and said that he was right, and then asked if something was wrong. The guy said she was too beautiful to be his type, but the girl did not like this answer. She is trying with the last effort to restrain herself, saying that before he liked her after all. The guy was about to deny something, but the girl said that there was no but, and explained to the Marquis that he was banged up, and that's why he couldn't think straight. She asked the guy to rest, and while he was resting, she would tell him their love story so that he would realize how much he loved her. The girl asked him to close his eyes and go to bed, which the Marquis obediently did, and in the meantime she withdrew to talk to the maid. The girl asked the maid to go and find someone who could copy the handwriting, but the maid asked what Miss was up to, and she began to tell her plan quietly in her ear. Time passed and the maid came in to see Landi, bringing with her what the girl had asked her to do. She put the box on the table and showed it to the Marquis, telling him that these were the journals he had kept on his travels when he had fought on the frontier and missed her, and he was only surprised that there were so many of them. Landi takes out one leaf from them and tells the Marquis that he even said that words alone are not enough to describe his love for her. Whereupon the guy reached for the box of letters, and at the same instant, the girl thought of what she hoped she could deceive him with. The guy blushed a lot and looked at Landi and asked if he was really writing, and she was asking, so he was not ashamed to write such a thing. But now he was ashamed. He has been writing these letters 101 days since his departure, explains the lady, and then thinks about how disgusting it is and how the maid managed to find this scribe in the first place. The Marquis began to review the other letters, and then became even more embarrassed and asked the girl not to read it all. But she said that she had already read it all long ago, and he continued to say that she should not look at the sheets now. The girl asks the Marquis why he should not read what he has written for her, which drives him more red with embarrassment, and the guy exclaimed that he just can't, thus making Landi think that it is not amnesia, but loss of personality. After that, the girl turned away from him, raised her head up proudly and said that since that was the case, let him read everything, and she would not bother him anymore. The guy abruptly grabbed Landi's hand and asked her if she would read the letters with him. He held her wrist tightly and looked at her like a kitten who didn't want his mistress to leave him. Landi is drinking hot tea and thinking about recent events. She remembers the Marquis holding her tightly by the wrist, making her hands sweat, except she had never thought that he was so clingy before. When the guy noticed that the girl was pensive and asked her what was wrong, the girl said nothing and decided to change the subject abruptly and asked if the Marquis was finished. Marquis replies that he has finished and has already read everything, and then he puts his hand on the girl's hand, crossing his fingers between their palms. But Landi is shocked. She does not understand what to do now. Is not the guy disgusted by all the reading? Marquis says that now he believes her words, then concludes his future daughter-in-law in a strong embrace and apologizes, saying that he forgot her rights and she may be very sad because of this, to which the girl responds that it's okay. She understands and accepts everything. The girl wondered if he really believed her so quickly, and there would be no more checks from him. But then her thoughts are interrupted by the voice of her future husband, who says that he has an incredibly kind wife and asks her when they will get married and she will move to live with him. And the girl realizes that when his memory returns to him, he will kill her on the spot. As suddenly they both heard a knock at the door and a voice from there, which tells that it is Admiral Herschel who came to them on an important case. Landi knows that Herschel is the one whom her fiancé trusts the most. As soon as the guy wanted to say something, the girl covered his mouth with her hand and asked him to be quiet. She realizes that if the Admiral finds out about his amnesia, she will be caught, and for this reason Joel should not be allowed to communicate with him too much. The lady explains to the guy that he can't let anyone know about his amnesia because he lost his memory because someone tried to harm him. If they find out about his amnesia, it will be even more dangerous, says the girl, playing the role of a caring daughter-in-law. Landi continued, saying that Joel should watch what he said and did and keep his words to a minimum so as not to get caught. She thought to herself that at least until she found a solution to the truth, it was better for him not to know. Admiral was led into their room. Admiral Herschel comes to the two of them and respectfully bows, greeting them, making an emphasis on the fact that he had not seen Miss Landi for a long time, She responded by saying hello to him as well. The admiral then looks towards his master and informs him that he has something important to tell him. The boy looked at Landi, who was fixing her hair. He thought about how he would have answered it if he didn't have amnesia. But he thought for a long time. So the admiral probably asked him again. And now the Marquis got his thoughts together and told him to tell him what he wanted to convey. The admiral said the word "on the outskirts," and then added that what he asked to do has already been done, and he is waiting for further instructions. This shocked the Marquis very much, as he does not remember what he asked for, and therefore does not know what further instructions to give him. A lady bursts into the conversation and asks the guy whether the instructions will be the same as before, or will be new. After these words, the guy already understood what to say. He confidently said that the instructions are the same as before. She apologized and said that they were having a private meeting, and that if he was done, he could go on about his business. And at the same time, Landi and Joel crossed their fingers on their palms like romantic couples do. Admiral Herschel obeyed her order and left the room. At this point, the guy hugged the girl tightly from the side and said that one more question, and he would immediately give up. While she was a little annoyed, knowing that everything just can't be left like that. She needed a plan or it could be exposed. The guy asked his future wife, so the general is someone he trusts a lot. But she just took him by the shoulders and said that it is necessary to protect themselves, because the less people know the better, even if the admiral will not hurt him, but still he can accidentally blabber about it. The guy said that she is right, and he will obey her. But he just wondered what would happen if it happens again. The girl reassures him, asking him not to worry because she has already sent a maid to find out everything, so he can adjust to the situation. The guy began to stare intently into the eyes of his wife, saying that she is the only one who treats him well, and all the others offend him, and the girl is very surprised at how easily he believes her words. The maid stopped the blonde man and asked him if he knew what to do in case you like someone a lot, and he blushed and asked what to do. And the maid said to find out his preferences, to know everything about him, and then to act. Then she asked the guy what he thought, and he said she was right. Then the maid asks him to do a favor, because her mistress wants to find out about the servicemen. Then the maid left him, going to the mistress. Landi asked Yami if she was done, but the maid just looked at the guy who was wiping his face and asked what happened to him, and then Landi sighed heavily. The girl gave her fiancé and offered to look at it together. It said, "Before the Marquis was not very talkative, so now you should stick to that image. You should keep your mouth shut and do nothing, and if he cannot cope with the problem, then let him just yell at them, and they will somehow deal with it themselves." And then the guy asks if they will not be annoyed, and the girl obviously replied that it will be. Marquis looked at his wife with a frustrated look and asked if she hated him, but she smiled sweetly, put her hand on his chest and said of course not. He was her fiancé. She had this idea that it was because she hit him. He lost his memory because of it, and it all turned out like that. The Marquis hugged the girl tightly, rejoicing like a child that his wife loved him, but such a cozy embrace for a guy very annoyed the girl. She raises her hand, signaling the maid to do something about it. The maid, acting on her orders, said that she should go back. But the Marquis still does not want to let her go, and asks the girl not to leave. After she told him that she had to go, but he continued to say that he did not want to part with his wife, which forced Landi to take extreme measures. She said that if she did not return today, her father would ban her, and they would never see each other again. Then the guy agreed and told her not to contradict her father. Joel is very happy to have a wife. While Landi has other things on her mind, she needs to find a way to break the engagement as quickly as possible without damaging her reputation. Yami opens the curtains and says that it's time for Miss Landi to get up. It's the old lady's birthday today, so they need to arrive at the old estate. The girl wakes up. She is still sleepy, but the maid continues to hurry her, because soon the Duke and the others will leave, to which the girl replies that she is not the first time and can go by herself. But Yami is strongly against it, because the old woman already does not like Landi, and this will be an excuse to yell at the girl, and if she finds out what her gift is, she will be unfortunate. Landi reassures the maid, saying that everything will be fine, because her grandmother has not paid attention to her gifts all these years. And why would she pay attention this year? Landi completely changed her clothes and asked if they were waiting for her. She said it's true what they say. Sometimes it's good to do crazy things, and then a guy asked her what those things were, which was her brother. The girl was very surprised because her brother was supposed to go to Sadie's town to deal with the mine, but he replied that he had rushed here last night and had arrived, and then added that it was time to go because Mom and Dad were waiting for them. The only one who Mom and Dad are waiting for is her brother, and she naively thought that they were waiting for her all this time, and now everyone is gathered and is on their way. Only the girl is sad. She thinks about everything being the same again. She imagines her older brother Knox, the heir, who is the most valued by his father, calling her to him. She has a younger brother, Lonnie, who easily gets his mother's love. She looks after him and does not leave him alone, so there is no time for Londi. Among all, she is the one who is ignored and left behind. In the beginning, the girl tried to fight, but in the end she accepted and got used to it. Not every child can receive the love of their parents, so she decided for herself that she will love herself. Joel is thinking about whether his wife will come to him today. He realizes that she can't always look for him, but sometimes he can come to her, but at the same time he can't do it because she asked him to avoid contact with other people now. But at the same time he certainly misses her a lot. He is like a fish without water without her. Guy suddenly called a servant to him and asked him to come over. He asked the officer to find out for him where Duchess Cassendi was. The girl sees both blondes, one of whom is Lonnie. They irritate her very much. One of them asks her if the engagement is already broken, how she has so much nerve if she managed to come to her grandmother's birthday party. He would have closed up at home and kept his nose to himself if he were her. Then an older woman approaches them, the same grandmother, who overheard the conversation and therefore asked what it means that the engagement is broken off. Landy is angry with her brother and asks Lonnie to come to her, but he refuses, saying he has nothing to do with it. The second blonde continues to sarcasm, calling the girl a used divorcee, and asks what she is going to do now in such a state. But the girl did not give in to provocation. The lady smiled and said that her engagement is not his business, or he wants to marry the Marquis instead of her. She asks with mockery. He got angry and shouted that it was nonsense, and then a maid came to Londi and asked her to be more careful. But the girl just looked at the guy and said that he was so mean, and should not she be angry now? He said again that she was talking nonsense, but Lonnie stopped him and asked him to be quiet. He held him down a little, as he was ready to go and teach the girl a lesson. He said that she was a dead woman, and she just said, "I'm afraid. I'm afraid." The grandmother burst into the argument and asked them all to stop, or they thought she was dead, and then turned to Londi and asked if she had lost her conscience, and then called Lonnie to her room to look at her grandson. Lonnie goes to his grandmother and tells her that he missed her very much. He also asks if she missed him, and his grandmother replies that she missed him every day and wondered what her grandson was eating. Londi asks Yami to take the gift to her. She did as the Duchess told her to do and distanced herself. But then her grandmother comes to the lady and says that she has not tried to do anything to make her happy, but is only being mean, then insults her by calling her a useless girl, and adds that it is no wonder why the engagement was broken off. Blondin continues to mock the girl, saying that the marriage was beneficial to the whole family, but she did not live up to their hopes as she is a useless divorcee, and then says that he is ready to help her. But even with the fact that the Marquis is looking for a new wife, with her beauty and status, Cassendi, even if she is a divorcee, is quite possible to try to find a couple. After these words, the girl could not stand it and slapped him with all her might, saying that it was not his time to wash her bones. But the grandmother noticed it. She raised her finger, pointing it at Landy, and shouted at her, asking how dare she behave like that, after which the girl's mother asked her not to argue with her grandmother and immediately apologized to her and her brother. The girl said that her brother spoke to her so disrespectfully that we should have hit him harder. She didn't expect her mother to intervene, but even so, she wouldn't let her treat her like that. The grandmother started waving a stick, trying to scare her rebellious granddaughter. She is very aggressive and not at all happy with Landy's behavior. The grandmother hit the Marquis on the back with her stick. He asked who it was, and the grandmother replied that it was her. She is all puzzled and does not understand what he is doing here. She did not want to hit him at all, as her daughter, Landy's mother, comes to her and tries to cheer her up. Marquis put his arm around Landy and asked if she was okay. She said she was okay and asked how he was. The guy smiled as he was happy that his wife was okay, He replied that the girl was not worried about him. Grandmother turned on her politeness and greeted the Marquis of Hazley, who bowed and greeted her back, saying he was pleased to meet her. He wished grandmother a happy birthday, saying he had heard from Lady Landee about the celebration, and therefore begged her to forgive him for coming without an invitation. And the grandmother continues to greet him, saying she's happy to see him, while giving their gift to the maid. The guy asks his grandmother not to think him rude, but he asks what his daughter-in-law did to her that she is so aggressive towards her. After these words, all the people of the hall were shocked, because before it was said that the Marquis breaks off the engagement, and now he defends her for no apparent reason. The guy asked in a more irritated tone if someone would answer him, and then the grandmother began to play the saint in public. She turned to Landee and said that it was just a slight misunderstanding. She had only misunderstood the girl. Landee said that it was fine, thinking that she had not dealt with Joel yet anyway. Landee's mom says that since the misunderstanding has been resolved, maybe Grandma should go take a rest. The girl's brother says Marquis Hazley's still his brother-in-law, and the girl turns on him and tells him to shut up, that she'll talk to him at home about it. But Landee is already used to such treatment. The old woman believes that the only use of a girl is to marry well. It is no match for the men who inherit the bloodline of the family. Landee turns her head and looks up at the tall guy who is her future fiancé and asks why he decided to come. Because he protected her, and she feels defenseless and weak again. Marquis said that he missed the girl, and she thought to herself, why did he miss her? Just because she was a girl. But she was no worse than men. She even did a lot of things better than they did. The guy continued talking. He wanted to see the girl, and he came in just in time, just at the moment when the girl was attacked. That's why he was able to help her. She thought that for her, even the protection of her parents was considered a luxury. And here he stood up for her. The guy's sad, he said when he imagined that Kane hitting her. His heart stopped. And it's a good thing she's okay or he'd be heartbroken. The girl smiled at him, asking him not to exaggerate, calling him a joker, thinking how disgusting it all is. And the Marquis smiled at her because his wife is so beautiful when she smiles it makes him delighted. The guy says that this will not do, and he needs to teach them a lesson, and let at least one of them try to touch the lady. After which the girl came closer to him and asked him not to do what is in his head. And the guy only replied that she did not worry because he has a sense of proportion. The girl thought to herself, what would happen if she told him that he was doing exactly that? And he wanted to break off the engagement, so there was no point in him getting close to her family. While she was thinking about it, the guy squeezed her hand tightly, intertwining his fingers together. The boy asks Landee if she will introduce him to her family, because your family is my family. He adds that they should get along well in the future. A girl introduces a guy to her family, says that this is her fiancé, Marquis Joel Hazley, and this is her cousin, Jode Cassandie, shows the girl. The boy greeted his cousin, saying that he hoped to be able to ask him for advice in the future. The guys greeted each other and shook hands, and allowed himself to be called Joel. Jode grimaced, and when the guy asked what happened to him, he found out that he squeezed his hand very hard, so that his cousin is now very hurt, the Marquis said. That he probably overdid it with the handshake. He apologized that he did not notice it. After all, he is mainly on the battlefield, and not at various banquets. Jode said it's okay and he understands him, although he's in a lot of pain himself, to which Joel said it's okay, but maybe it's better to see a doctor. He's worried that he might have accidentally broken his arm. The guy said then he declined, and after adding that Landee looks very good together with the Marquis, the guests also decided to go along with Jode to make sure that everything is really all right. Marquis smiled at Landee and asked her how she liked the show, and she smiled and said that it was not bad. She was fine, and then the guy called the girl to follow him, taking her by the hand. He put his arm around his wife and asked if there would be any reward for his efforts. She asked him what he wanted, and he pointed his finger to his lips and said he wanted a kiss from his wife, which made Miss Landee a little embarrassed. The girl is very shocked. She did not expect such a desire from Joel. That's why it both embarrassed and perplexed her. As soon as the Marquis began to press closer to her face in the hope of a kiss, she covered her lips with her palm, so that the Marquis kissed the inside of her palm. But this was not an obstacle for the guy. He said that if so, then he will kiss the hand of his wife. Landee tells him to be quiet or they'll be overheard. She presses her palm harder against his mouth to shut him up, but the guy pushes her away and says he's checked and there's no one here. Landi said that even if someone passed by and noticed it, if he did it again, she wouldn't pay attention to him all day. The girl gave an ultimatum, to which the Marquis had to apologize and ask her not to ignore him. Landi repeated that he should not touch her without permission. She thinks he is crazy, and one more kiss like that, she will blow his head off. But at the same time, she thought that if he is always so obedient, she will be able to marry him. The girl calls for the guy to go, as the father and the others have already finished their conversation. The Marquis greets the Duke, Landi's father, who welcomes him back and says that he is glad he attended his mother's birthday party. The boy replies that Landi is now his daughter-in-law, and it turns out that her grandmother is now his relative as well. Her father instructed the girl to stay with the Lord and not to neglect him, to which she said okay, and asked her father not to worry about it. The father was informed that Landi had beaten up her cousin, that she was not a woman of modesty and beauty, that all she does is to commit lawlessness. And after these words, the father became angry and asked his daughter what it all meant, and then the Marquis stood up for her, saying that it was all him, and the girl asked him to stay out of it, because it was her business. The girl realizes that she brought it on herself. She always breathed this atmosphere, the atmosphere when your parents not only do not understand you, but openly ignore you, and do not show a bit of care and love, and everything goes to her brothers, who are also not very friendly towards her. The girl said that Jode said that she should become a courtesan for the Marquis of Kapudi, so as to benefit the family. Do they think that he does not deserve a broken arm? Asks the girl, thus making her relative very angry, who is ready to attack her with his fists. The guy was stopped, but the Marquis didn't like it at all. He asked what he was going to do, and then the guy asked Joel Hazley not to pay attention to it. Just this woman needs to be taught discipline, or she will sooner or later sit on his neck. He said he was only thinking about the future of the Marquis. The uncle was asked to be careful with his words, and he shouted back whether he had said anything wrong. What right had that wench to strike her cousin? If she married the Duke of Hazley, there would be rumors that the Duchess of Cassandie was poorly educated, which would make the Duke lose face. The Marquis said he didn't have to worry about it, and when Landi entered his family, she would be allowed to do anything as long as she was happy. The girl asks the boy to stand behind her, and then comes closer to her uncle, asking if her cousin is better educated than her. She heard that last month her cousin was caught cheating with Viscount Wilbert's wife. She also mentions that it took a lot of money to cover up the case, but the cousin just shouted that she was talking nonsense and shut her mouth. Father intervenes in the dialogue. He asks Landi not to talk nonsense in front of Marquis Hazley, and then he turns to Jode and asks him what it's about, but it seems that father wants to pretend as if nothing happened. Jode confesses that the woman just took him and seduced him. The girl is happy that he so easily confesses and she does not even have to prove anything. The uncle's brother stood up for the boy. He said that Jode was young and energetic and therefore it is understandable that he gave in to temptation and made a small mistake. The girl asks her uncle why he puts him in a favorable light, cannot admit that he is not able to control his household, and if so, it is not worth spoiling the reputation of the duchy groundless accusations. Father told them to stop, for they were disgracing themselves before the Marquis, whereupon he turns to Hazley and begs his pardon. The boy told the Duke that he shouldn't have to do that, because Landi is his sister-in-law, and he doesn't have to suck up to the family, so now Hazley and Cassandie are united. And he also added that he hopes that his cousin will think more about what he does and says in the future, otherwise it will affect the reputation of both families. Joan is asked to be taken away and punished properly, but he shouted apologizes to his uncle and admits that he was wrong. His uncle's brother also agrees and asks to let Joan go because he has come to his senses and admits his mistakes. Landi is happy that Joel is with her now because he was able to punish the guy properly. He is useful, she thinks, but he is hardly suitable for a husband. She looked at the Marquis and smiled at him. In the midst of the luxurious hall, the mistress was carrying on a conversation with a girl. The woman was lightly fanning her face with a fan while keeping a straight posture. The girl listened attentively to her words. The lady said that she was aware of the broken engagement, but she also saw the Marquis's desire for marriage, so she asked the girl to indulge the boy and please him in every way possible. After these words, the woman added that in this way, the girl would be able to help her brothers. Then she abruptly changes her face, adopting a demonic expression, and asks if she has explained everything clearly. The next morning, the girl, waking up in her luxurious bed, repeats to herself that this is not her concern at all, and she has other, more important things to do. As she rises from the bed, she tries with interest to ask the maid if the letter has come back from her cousin. The maid, standing by the girl's bedside, is slow to answer and a little agitated. After a slight pause, she tensely and timidly replies that this is the 5th time she has been asked about the letter. Perhaps the girl expected a more violent reaction to her answer. However, Miss Just lies down anew with reflection on the bed. She is excited and anxious for an answer, as she herself had sent the letter 3 days ago and urgently needs her brother's advice. After being persuaded to do so, the maid agrees to go and check the mail again, although without much enthusiasm. But a knock on the door changes everything. Miss is told that Shuri Kirchner has come to visit her. This surprises Miss. She doesn't know what to think. The maid assumes that he has some important personal business to discuss. Immediately upon hearing the news of Kirchner's visit, Miss immediately gets out of bed and asks her maid to help her with her clothes. Having completed all her preparations, Miss, accompanied by her maid, goes to the large hall where guests are usually welcomed. But this time, the maids open the front door, and Miss steps out onto the terrace of the estate, where Shuri's carriage is already parked, and the young man himself is waving cheerfully to the girl as a sign of greeting. Shuri is the son of Marquis Kirchner, vice president of the Dubat Chamber of Commerce. The visit of Kirchner Jr. does not make a proper impression on the girl. Just the opposite. Such behavior of the young man irritates her, since Miss carefully watches her reputation. However, Shuri, apparently, does not notice the girl's discontent. Deciding to get straight to the point, Miss asks the purpose of Shuri's visit. He calmly replies that he has come to give her a letter from his brother-in-law, her cousin, and hands her an envelope. The fact that Kirchner has the letter before she has it makes Miss D suspicious. She asks where the young man got the letter from. Shuri embarrassedly replies that he has just returned from a trip and Landi's cousin asked him to give her the letter. Shuri tries to add something else, but Landi confidently and loudly yells at the guy, asking him to shut up. This behavior does not embarrass young Kirchner in the least. On the contrary, he laughs loudly as he remembers that Landi's marriage is being dissolved, adding that he alone is responsible for the girl's bad temper. Shuri continues to behave in his typical manner, incurring the wrath of Landi, who jokingly threatens to beat up the guy. Miss D then quite seriously tells Kirchner to leave, as he has no business being here. However, Shuri insists that her brother told him everything and asked him to come. During the conversation, Shuri touches Landi's hand, then wraps her palm around his own. At the same moment, the Marquis of Hazley's carriage arrives at the estate. From his carriage window, he sees Shuri holding Landi by the palm of her hand. The Marquis reacts violently and asks what's going on, and immediately jumps out of the carriage, heading towards Landi in bewilderment and anger. In that brief moment while Marquis Hazley was approaching Shuri and Landi, Kirchner told the girl that the Marquis looked like he was going to kill him. Landi confirmed to him that he was. Shuri was about to fall through the ground, but he breathed out a sigh of relief when he saw that the Marquis was heading towards Landi. Marquis Hazley makes a jealous scene and asks if Landi loves him. The girl replies that she loves him and needs him, but the Marquis does not believe her. He says that the girl doesn't come to him and doesn't want him to come to her, while she is holding hands with anyone. But Landi timidly replies that she was going to come just today. She holds out the envelope with her brother's letter to the Marquis with the words that Shuri is the younger brother of her sister's husband, and he just brought this letter. Shuri enters the conversation and introduces herself, greeting the Marquis. Turning to the younger Kirchner, Marquis Hazley greeted the young man discreetly, noting to himself that Shuri and Landi were not blood relatives. Marquis Hazley asks Landi out on a date and asks her where she would like to go. But the girl doesn't have time to answer. Shuri unceremoniously enters the conversation and says that a new candy store has opened in the north of the capital, and then invites Landi and the Marquis to go with her. But not only did Shuri intrude into a private conversation, he also addressed the girl as Dee. Such an address alarmed the Marquis of Hazley very much. It didn't even help that Shuri explained that Londi had such a nickname. Kirchner went further and defiantly asked the girl if that was the case. Londi forcedly agreed, citing that Dee is the nickname that all the relatives on her grandfather's side of the family address her by, which of course is not true. Londi keeps a cheerful smile, though in truth, she herself was quite surprised to hear that she had gotten some sort of nickname. She endures it, but harbors hopes of getting revenge on the insolent Kirchner. Despite the unusual nature of the proposal and Shuri's behavior, Marquis Hazley pokes fun at the suggestion of a threesome and thanks Kirchner for assisting Londi. Shuri replies to the Marquis that there is no need for gratitude, as it is his responsibility. As Shuri explains, his family roots go back a long way, to Londi's grandfather, whom he still calls Dee. In conversation, the guy deliberately emphasizes that he and Londi are childhood friends. This causes Marquis Hazley to react with indignation, which he skillfully conceals by showing courtesy and friendliness to young Kirchner. As the boys' rivalry grows, the Marquis himself emphasizes in conversation that he is Londi's future fiancé, hoping to discourage Shuri from competing once and for all. This behavior of the guys makes Londi puzzled. She has been standing between them all this time, listening to all their remarks. Finally, when Shuri is about to say something else, the girl interrupts him halfway through and asks him if it's time for him to leave, which upsets Kirchner. Suddenly, a servant enters the courtyard. He bows respectfully and informs that the Emperor would like to see the Marquis of Hazley. The Marquis hesitates. He does not want to leave Londi alone with Shuri Kirchner. The girl, understanding the Marquis's confusion, suggests that the two of them go together. This visibly calms Hazley down, but Shuri immediately steps in. He once again asks Londi if she is going to the palace with the Marquis. This time the Marquis can't stand it, and without waiting for Londi's answer, he irritably asks Shuri what's the big deal if his bride-to-be accompanies him. Kirchner kindly replies that there is nothing wrong with that, but immediately adds that he has a conversation to have with the girl. Surprised and slightly alarmed, Londi hears the Marquis ask if there is anything in this conversation that cannot be said in front of him. However, she immediately tries to engage in dialogue without giving Shuri time to respond. Londi tells the Marquis to go quietly to the palace for the meeting, and she will go out with him afterward. Reluctantly, the Marquis agrees and goes to the palace, leaving Londi and Shuri to talk. Shuri says that he is now convinced that the Marquis has indeed lost his memory. However, he tells Londi that deceiving a man with amnesia will cost her dearly. Londi thinks his words are just nonsense and reminds the guy that he promised to tell her about the way to deal with amnesia. Shuri says it's not an urgent conversation, turning the topic to the fact that there are a lot of eyes following the girl. When asked by Londi who it's about, the guy says it's about the Imperial Palace. Londi doesn't immediately believe her boyfriend's words, as she has always had a good relationship with the palace and sees no reason why they should follow her. Walking on the terrace, Shuri says that it's all about the breakup of the engagement. They are keeping an eye on her marriage because Kassandi's marriage means a constant flow of money. Shuri's words made Londi plunge into thought. However, the guy himself hurriedly left, so the girl returned to the palace. Before the Marquis of Hazley meets the Emperor, the girl manages to have a brief conversation with the guy. She admonishes him and tells him that she will wait. The girl asks the Marquis to watch his words and actions. The guy presses Londi's palm against his cheek, promising to return soon. They say goodbye and the Marquis heads off to meet him. Looking at his back, Londi gives him a pensive look, saying that as long as he doesn't do anything unnecessary, he shouldn't be suspected. It had been 25 minutes since the Marquis had gone to the meeting. The girl obediently waited for Hazley, noting to herself that she should not have been a lady, for it was difficult for her to make a proper expression. But all her thoughts fade away when she is approached by a very respectable young man. He turns out to be Leon Bryan, the third prince of the Delary Empire. Londi greets the prince as befits a duchess, curtsying to the young man. At the same time, she finds this coincidence strange and recalls Shuri's words that the imperial family is watching over her. Leon smiles and thanks Londi for such a polite greeting. When he gets a little closer to the girl, he says he didn't expect to see her in the palace during his walk, and says it's a funny coincidence. The prince hurries to ask the girl about the purpose of her stay, and Landi replies that she is expecting her fiancé. The confused girl thinks to herself that it is not a coincidence, and that Leon himself rushed here as soon as he heard that the girl was here. The prince is not indifferent to the news of the groom, and says that he has heard that there has been an attempt to break off the engagement. The prince's pressure makes Landi say that it's all just rumors, and that she and the Marquis of Hazley are on good terms. Prince Leon insists, and says that he thinks Landi should break off the engagement and look for a better suitor. As an option, Leon pathetically offers himself. He says he's heard a lot about the girl, and their meeting was even better than he imagined. The prince asks Landi to consider him as a groom after breaking off the engagement. Landi respectfully bows to the prince and thanks him for his advice, but assures him that she and the Marquis of Hazley are fine. Landi notes to herself that the prince apparently needs her money very much to be able to compete for the throne. Landi seems to be right, as the prince does not stop fervor and says that she should not pretend, because he knows very well that the Marquis of Hazley came to her to break the engagement. The girl becomes completely disillusioned with Leon, believing him to be a cretin with a lack of intelligence. The very idea that a man like him could inherit the throne is beyond her comprehension. Leon continues the conversation. He believes that Marquis Hazley didn't break the engagement because Landi made huge sacrifices in front of him. He promises that if the girl becomes his bride, she will get everything the Marquis offered her and more. Landi tries to calm Leon's fervor by telling him not to make such a big announcement. However, she realizes that what he said is a hint that once the engagement is broken off, Leon will take the chance. Just then, Hazley returns from his meeting with the Emperor. It is the second time in a day that he has seen a new guy hitting on his fiancée while he was away. Unable to tolerate it any longer, the Marquis shouts at the prince, ordering him to move away from Landi. When the Marquis comes within a reasonable distance of Prince Leon, he slaps him in the face without a second thought. Now the prince cannot bear the insult he has been insulted. In the heat of the moment, he threatens the Marquis, saying that he doesn't know who he has just crossed. The Marquis of Hazley himself does not fall for Leon's words. He stands over the insulted prince with a confident expression on his face, and now he is concerned only with one question: how this unscrupulous man dared to touch his wife. Leon Bryan shouted to Joel that he was crazy, but Landi stopped him and asked him not to be rude to His Highness Leon, and in front of His Highness, she apologized for the behavior of his companion. Then asked Joel to apologize too. Only Leon says that to their regret, attempts to apologize will not lead to anything, because such crimes are punishable by death. He wanted to say that now he will report it to the right place, but then the girl interrupted him. She understands that the beating of the prince is a serious matter, and if Leon comes to His Highness and accuses Joel of disrespecting the imperial family, then he is likely to be seriously punished. The girl says that His Highness should not tell His Majesty about this situation, because it is in their interest, after all. The cause of this incident is His Highness's attempt to force her into marriage, and if His Majesty finds out about it, he may suspect him of wanting to take possession of Cassendi's fortune. Leon asks how she dares to threaten him, and the girl took both hands on her long and luxurious dress, bowed politely, and asked how she could threaten him. She only analyzed the consequences of his actions. She added that she hoped His Highness would forgive her for some of her rudeness. Leon got very angry and left them with the thoughts that Lani de Cassendi, Joel Hazley, would pay him back sooner or later. Apparently, they had made another enemy. The guy called the girl wife, which made her very angry. She said that he should not call her that. She mentioned it several times, but he does not get it. She also scolded the guy for a direct collision with the prince. It was as unsafe as possible. The guy said he'd dare to want his wife, and next time Joel sees him touching her, he'll kill him on the spot. The lady shouted before the guy, but immediately cooled down and said that he can do what he knows and what he thinks is best. And after these words, Joel began to apologize to his wife, saying that he was wrong, and it will not happen again. Now he will only do what his wife asks and will not oppose her. The guy is thinking about why his wife doesn't beat him if he's pissed her off. He looks at the girl very attentively and enthusiastically, which annoys her even more. Landi turned her back on him and said that it was time for them to leave the place and go. Then she asked what His Majesty wanted from the guy. He said that His Majesty asked some questions about their marriage and gave him a grace period of 6 months, and then he would lead the troops in Karens. The girl thought about how it would be nice if he didn't have his memory back. So she wouldn't have to worry about being with Leon, however. That wasn't possible. Compared to Joel, ambitious Leon is more trouble. First, the girl needs to get rid of rumors about the breakup of the engagement, so that Leon lost any thoughts of her. You need to once again think over the incident with the active participation of Joel. A maid comes to the girl. She is all pale, and it is very well noted Londi. The maid said that now everywhere spread rumors about the breakup of the engagement. A little more and the entire social community will know about it. The aristocrats openly discuss the fact of breaking the engagement and wonder how the Duchess feels after this, while the aristocrat guys think it's a great chance for themselves. Lelia Kegis, daughter of the Marquis of Kegis, heard about all this gossip and asked if it was true and if there was anyone who could confirm it, to which she was told that someone had confirmed it. But the news came from the palace. The girl rejoiced and said that for Lon de Cassendi's birthday had come. She asked that her father be told that this time her birthday was to be a grand one, and then have him send a message to their miss and see that she received it. She instructed one of the servants. The girl received the letter and realized that everyone is very interested in her private life. And if so, she says to the maid, we need to quench their curiosity. But then the girl was called by her father, and she came to his room. The father asks his daughter if she knows that there are various rumors about her divorce, to which the girl replied that yes, thought that the one who spread them is none other than Leon. Then the father asks what Earl Hazley is thinking, and the girl says that he listens to her opinion. Then the father asks her to deal with this nonsense as soon as possible, so that she does not tarnish the reputation of the Duchy of Cassendy. And on that note, he says goodbye to the girl and lets her go. It's Lily's birthday. The aristocrats are gossiping among themselves. They can't wait for Londi to come. At least they are fiercely discussing her arrival at the party, because the real show will come, and the girl will be disgraced in front of everyone. It was reported that the Duchess of Cassendi had arrived, but only when everyone looked around and saw her, they saw a guy standing next to her. Joel Hazley, the one about the divorce rumored to be going around, dressed in purple outfits that complement each other very well. The girl holds the Marquise's hand and confidently walk with him together. Lily was shocked. She didn't expect the girl to arrive with her fiancé. She wondered what kind of jerk spread these false rumors, while Landi thought to herself whether everyone here was happy with this sight, because none of them expected her to arrive alone. She raised her head up, looked at the guy. Her smile lifted his spirits too. Landi apologizes that Mrs. Lilia did not invite her fiancé, and he came even without an invitation card. The fact is that he just wanted to make a gift for her, so he came with her. The lady hopes that Mrs. Lilia will not object to his presence at the party. The girl said that she could not have any objections at all. But nevertheless, Landi was still very much with her as before. She continued speaking, saying that Lord Hazley's failure to receive the invitation was her fault, and she apologized sincerely to the two of them. The girl took hold of both edges of her dress and bowed politely. She said that the reason for this was the rumors that their engagement had broken off, and she was afraid that Miss Landi would be uncomfortable meeting her ex-husband there. So she decided not to invite the Lord this time. She hoped that neither the girl nor the boy would hold any anger or resentment towards her this time. Landi thanked her heartily for her concern and said that the rumors were false and should not be trusted. At that time, Jael wondered if this was the same women's war his wife had told him about. Miss Kegis looked fierce. Was his wife losing to her? But his wife said that men were not supposed to interfere in such disputes. Miss Lily replied. She said that Miss Landi had become more rounded, and it was definitely because she was happier. The girl replied that she was mistaken, but she decided to omit this point. She added that she had brought a present for Miss Kegis in honor of her birthday and her 21 years of age, and the present was carried by her maid, who stood behind the girl. The girl thought mentally that she had indeed eaten more because of the nervousness of the engagement, but she had only gained a few inches in her waist, not that much. Miss Lily thanked the girl. She thought to herself that she hadn't planned on having such a big party at all, and it was all because of that jerk who started the rumor. A blonde man comes up to them and asks these beautiful ladies to have a rest. If he didn't know them, he would consider them friends. And then the guy comes up to Miss Kegis and gives her his hand. He says he doesn't know if he's worthy or not, but he'd like to ask the beautiful lady to dance, and she says she doesn't feel well. When a guy is rejected, he approaches Londi and asks her to dance, saying that she will not let him be rejected twice. But this is very unpleasant to the Marquis. He is angry and jealous of the girl. He is clearly against her dancing with another because she is his wife. The guy didn't know how best to act, so he touched the blonde man's palm, saying that he could dance with him, because from his point of view there is no fundamental difference between dancing with him and dancing with his sister-in-law. The blonde wanted to refuse, but the guy insisted on dancing quickly, since after that he would have a dance with his beautiful daughter-in-law. Joel and the blonde guy start dancing. There's beautiful music from musicians. The guy asks if he's okay. He thinks the blonde guy is a little sick, but he denies it and asks who told him that nonsense. They're spinning in a beautiful dance. Londi laughed as she watched the two guys, one of whom was her fiancé, dance a waltz, a very funny sight for her. Miss Lily asked the girl if her fiancé's brains were wrong, to which the girl told her that hers were obviously bigger, which made Lily think that she was also sick in the head. Londi intertwined the fingers of her hands together with Miss Lilia and said that they should have fun too. They went out and danced next to the guys who were twirling in a slow waltz. Music of famous musicians is playing around. Aristocrats and aristocrats are dancing. But at the same time, Joel keeps watching Londi so that nothing happens to her accidentally. The guy stood on the blonde man's shoes. The guy realized that he did it on purpose with malicious intent. At the same time, the guy pretended not to hear him when he asked about the Marquise's true intention. After that, they switched partners. Londi dances a slow waltz with her fiancé Jael, and the blonde man, as he originally wanted, now dances with Miss Lilia. Londi asks the guy if he can't dance. She thought so because she saw him stepping on his partner's foot, and then she asked if he would do the same to her. The guy said, puzzled, that he could, then corrected himself and said that he wouldn't step on her foot. At least he would try. The girl notices a neighboring couple dancing, and Miss Lily blushed very red for some reason. She feels embarrassed. The birthday girl stepped on the foot of her waltz partner. She blushed very much, feeling guilty, and apologized to the guy, to which he replied that it was nothing. Lan Di, who was watching their dance, learned a secret of Miss Kegis. The Marquis, feeling jealous, gently took hold of Lan Di's chin on his own, taking her gaze away from him. However, when he realized that he had done something wrong, he immediately found an excuse for doing so. He said he was handsome, so Lan Di should look at him. These words brought a smile to the girl's face. Undoubtedly, she liked such a decisive gesture, but she still slightly reprimanded Marquis Hazley, saying that he was not only handsome but also very self-confident. The herald interrupted the couple's conversation, announcing that the sixth princess of the empire, Karina Bryan, had arrived. She was a young beauty with golden hair and a firm gait. The appearance of such a distinguished guest provoked a heated discussion among the audience. They didn't expect that the princess herself would appear here in person. While the others were slightly puzzled, Londi asked the Marquis to be quiet for a while. Princess Karina was approached by the birthday girl herself, Miss Kegis, to greet the newcomer and express her respect. She took the edges of her luxurious dress, slightly raised them, and bowed to the princess. The princess graciously accepted the greeting of Miss Kegis, but during the conversation looked at the Marquis. Joel asks Londi if she's tired and suggests that she take a rest. But just then the princess noticed Duchess Cassandie. She didn't know that the girl would be here too. Princess Karina said that she had heard that the engagement of the Duchess and the Marquis of Hazley had been broken off and asked if it was true, while she smiled slightly arrogantly at the girl. Behind Londi and Joel's backs, the guests have already begun to banter and gossip. It turns out that the princess herself is so in love with Joel that she refuses all other suitors, so she will definitely use any opportunity to marry the Marquis. Some of the guests, however, are still not thrilled that the princess is discussing such matters in public. Joel broke the silence. He replied that all those rumors about the engagement being broken off were lies. Unfortunately, his words upset Londi, as she had asked him to be quiet before. Joel continued and said that he was wrong then, but now he and Londi were fine. The girl confirms the words of the Marquis and asks not to worry. However, the princess asks Joel to tell the truth. The Marquis repeats that he has told the truth, but his words do not affect Karina. She says that she knows everything. The princess tells Joel that she knows he doesn't like Landy. The princess tells Joel that she knows Landy doesn't like him, but he tells her that she should be more careful what she says and does. Unfortunately, Miss Keggis herself joins the conversation. She takes the princess's side and says that she doesn't believe Joel and Landy are sincere either, suspecting that they are just putting on an act. The princess agrees with Miss Keggis, and the latter, with a sly smile, says she can only believe their feelings when they kiss in front of everyone. As Joel digests what he's heard, Landy, slightly taken aback by the surprise, asks Miss Keggis why she has to entertain the audience while holding a grudge against the woman. To this, Miss Keggis replies that it's because Landy is a good actor. Hiding her deep contempt and anger at Keggis behind an ostentatious smile, Landy also doesn't forget about Shuri, who she feels is completely failing in her promise to help. Joel looks a little embarrassed in the direction of his wife, and she looks at him with a slightly uncomprehending look, waiting for him to do something or say something to clarify the situation. But the guy just takes her by the chin, which makes Landy blushed. Marquis Hazley suddenly kissed the girl on the lips, touching her neck with the palm of his hand. He began to kiss Landy for a long time, taking her first kiss. From the suddenness of the girl could not even immediately push the guy away. She is very embarrassed and trying to come to her senses. After a few moments, Landy pushed the guy away, asking him to let her go immediately. The guy continues to hold Mrs. hand, not wanting to let her go for a second. They look into each other's eyes, still as confused as ever. Their kiss was watched by the guests. Lady Lily said it was simply bravissimo. She wished the two a great wedding. They congratulated the Duchess of Cassandie and the Marquis of Hazley. A beautiful woman to match a beautiful man. The couple was like a match made in heaven. The Marquis of Hazley told His Majesty that she couldn't help but believe it now. But the princess was not happy about it. She exclaimed that they could not be together because she would not give Landy Joel's brother to Landy. He would be hers and hers alone. The princess was very angry and resentful. She did not like the way the situation had turned out, but the gossip that used to go around the palace was more to her liking than the reality as it was. Karina, born of the second prince's mother, is known for her cluelessness. She has been chasing Joel since childhood. There is nothing strange about her trying to put on such a show in public. The engagement of the Duchess and the Marquis is being watched by many eyes. Lady Landy thinks so. The girl suggested to the guy to go out, as they had something important to discuss, and it would be better without prying eyes. They went out to the yard, and the girl reminded that she had asked the Marquis not to do anything without her permission. After that, she asked what he wanted. Marquis Hazley replied that he did not seek anything. He only wanted to kiss his wife. What was wrong with that? But the girl did not hear him say so, so she asked him what he was muttering about. The guy suddenly pressed himself against her and kissed her on the lips again. This time, even more passionately than then, he kissed the girl without letting her say a word, just letting her dissolve in the romantic atmosphere and the intertwining of their lips.